Hey, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Game Report. And we got a few things to cover here. First thing I want to talk about is the article that was published in the AJC by Seth Ellerby, where he interviewed Ernie Yarbrough. And I want to take a couple things that I've had a chance to chat back and forth with the GHSA over the past few days and gotten some clarification on some numbers. And I just want to run these by you guys and see what your thoughts are. A lot of people have read that article. A lot of people I've talked to have asked me about it. So let's just jump right in here and take some excerpts and see what our thoughts are here. So okay, so the first, these are direct quotes taken straight from the article here. The first quote says our registration numbers last year were up from the previous year. Okay, so that was the first question that I had. Is that true? Going down, it says over the course of the last 10 years, 10 to 15 schools. And what he's talking about is at the addition of 10 to 15 schools and adding number of games. And it goes on down to say, what it means is there's more games for our people to cover, and that's what's happening. And while I understand that, there's still if you don't have enough to cover the added games, you still don't have enough, regardless of the reason. So then you're just on to the second paragraph. It's not a numbers issue; it's a number of games. He reiterates it's a number of games that have to be covered by a certain number of officials. So just showing the point that there's multiple times this occurs in the article. Well, this happens to be the graph that was given to the Officials Advisory Committee in 2019. And this information does not match what was being said. That's actually a decline. Now, in 15-16, we showed a little bit of a peak, and in 18 and 19, we went down. Now, when I asked for clarification, there is a slight uptick in numbers for the 1920 from what I'm being told. So let's take a look at those because I want to be fully transparent on the information that I was given. So here's the next look. So if you go to the actual counts at the top and you look at the 1920 registration numbers, you see 8,936. That's up from 8,867 total sports. But the interesting thing about this information is that while, yes, it is true that there was an increase of 60 plus officials for the entire year, two things that jump out to me. The 18-19 numbers have actually changed from what the Officials Advisory Committee was given versus what I've been given in this chart. And the other thing is that of the 11 sports that have been represented, 7 of them show a decrease in registration numbers. That's where you see the percentage changes at the bottom. So a lot of your major sports are actually experiencing a decline. Basketball is a little bit opposite. It is an outlier. Soccer is an outlier. But your other main sports, baseball, football is down. Those are key items or key sports, for that need to be addressed in terms of sustainable officiating practices. And baseball is actually on a 2-year skid. So when I hear that the numbers are up, and my gut is telling me that numbers are not up, and when I see NASO information that doesn't match that information, and NFHS with their whole Say Yes to Officiating initiative doesn't match that information, this is why we ask another level deeper question. And I think the percentage changes is very enlightening to that information, that while the overall number may be up, basketball is carrying the increase for the other 7 sports that are down. Soccer is carrying the increase for the other sports that are down. So those are things that we want to really pay attention to when analyzing this situation. I've also asked for number of games to have been played. I was told that number cannot be given to me because the GHSA did not govern regular season games. So I thought that might be a nice thing to know if we're in search of how many officials it takes to service the member schools of GHSA. I think it's relative to parallel those two things: number of games versus number of officials needed. So pulling out a few more quotes here, it says, we have an officiating advisory committee, which is representative of 1 North and 1 South from all sports. That committee was the one that got together back in the fall and discussed several of the issues, including game fees. We're going to look at the timeline on this officials officiating advisory committee in just a second. But there's also another committee that is a subcommittee of the state executive committee, and they're just simply called the official subcommittee. That's what he references in the second paragraph that says we have an officials committee that meets when the executive committee meets twice a year. And if there are officiating issues that need to be presented, they can be presented in the executive committee. It's not an issue where things are decided without a voice. That is just not true. Um, well, okay, that's fine. Last year was the only year that I know of where we actually had a representative as an official that made it into that subcommittee meeting and saved what was likely to be a pay decrease that was proposed for playoff fees, which some of you may know about. There's definitely would have been, I feel like, uproar had that happened. But this is just simply just not a place where a lot of officiating matters have been discussed. And in fact, there's not an actual active or a relevant official on that official subcommittee. So I'm not sure how they're really discussing officials matters when they're not. I mean, I'm sure they do a great job with their schools and their regions that they represent, but they're just not officials, and there's issues that they're just simply not aware of. So we're going to do a better job of executing and communicating with that group of people, since now we've been told that we can do that. Going back to the top paragraph, I want to expand on the officiating advisory committee just for a minute and explore this option here in terms of representative of officials' voices. Here's the 18-year timeline of the officials advisory committee. In 2002, we think anyway, was the inception of the officials advisory committee.
Move all the way to 2017.
And the officials advisory committee votes to mandate two things. The first thing was playoff camps went from every other year to every year. And then that is when the varsity camp every other year was instilled as well. For, in some sports, I think it's $50, and there's various prices in the playoff camp fee. So that is when that was done. And that was actually not a committee of 25. That actually was reduced down to 5 people in a room. It was 4 sport liaisons and, or sport trainers, I should say, and state trainers, and the chairman of that committee. So that was 5 people that's presented as 25. It really was not. It was 5 people that sat down and made those decisions. And supposedly they're an ad hoc committee too. So trying to parallel all that information, fast forward to 2019, which was referenced in the article, where that group did sit down, was consulted for their advice on the game fee compensation. And I think to put it, just transparently is the way it happened. I don't know that all of the recommendations from that advisory committee were accepted and proposed. I can't confirm nor deny, but I do have strong reason to believe that that those game fees that were proposed by that officials advisory committee were altered and given to the officials subcommittee to be moved on and voted throughout the state executive committee. That was the same proposal that had a pay decrease in the first 3 rounds of playoffs for all 5 major sports. So my point is this: had a few officials not got together, banded together at the last second, and involved that subcommittee in the 11th hour, which is the first time I've known that that's ever happened, we would likely have had a pay decrease last year. In closing, the article goes on to read, it is the adage of, if all you're going to present is problems, then it's tough to come up with a solution. So my challenge to anybody listening to this video, if you're a game official, you're a sport contest official, and we do have issues with the procedure, the policy, the process that are in place in a lot of ways. This is now your opportunity where you're being summoned by Georgia High School. You're given an avenue to communicate with. And it starts right here on this social media and this post right here. If you have an opinion about, any of these numbers, if you have an opinion about the transparency, if you have an opinion about your representation, post on this video and let's get it going. I mean, I'm interested in what you guys think. Please comment, share, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. And let us know what your thoughts are regarding these topics. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and look forward to the next show. Thank you.